Hello students, I'm Dr. Padma and I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist, and that basically means I deal with people right from the time they conceive till up to old age, and I'm going to teach you about life processes, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible and make you very interested so you all to become doctors. So here goes. Hi students, so today I'm going to talk to you about life processes. So what exactly is life? How do you know that I'm alive? That's because I'm talking to you, I'm moving, so you know that I'm alive. So to maintain this life, there are certain basic functions that every organism has to do. So what are these basic functions? So let's look at these pictures which will make it easier for you. So you have nutrition and then you have respiration, and nutrition and respiration is taking in particular kind of food and a particular type of oxygen which is going to help you, give you your energy. And can this take place directly from nutrition? No, it has to undergo metabolism. So you have metabolism here in the digestive system, and once the fuel is formed, it has to be transported to the rest of the body. So you have the circulatory system, and whatever is excess and is not required by the body will be sent out through this, which is called as the excretory system. And to maintain the entire process of life, as well as to make sure that human beings continue to be alive on this planet, you have something called as reproduction. So these are the various basic life processes. So let me see if I can make it easier for you. So you have something called as a mnemonic, which is called as Mrs. Gren. So what does M stand for here? Movement. How do you know I'm alive? I'm talking, I'm moving, so M is movement. R is for respiration. Respiration is your breathing, you're taking in oxygen, giving out carbon dioxide. What about S? Your sense of touch, stimulus, which gives you control, coordination. Then G is for growth, because you grow from a child to an adult, so that is required. R is for reproduction.
Don't explain. M for movement, R for reproduction. Tuck, 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 tuck.
Okay. I'm going to say only from mnemonic I can say?
Yeah.
So to help you remember this, I'm going to give you a mnemonic called as Mrs. Gren. M is for movement, R is for respiration, S is for sensitivity or stimulus, G is for growth, R for reproduction, E is for excretion, and N, though it comes at the last, most important, is nutrition. So in your syllabus, what are the 4 important life processes? Nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. So let's go into details of each. So what is nutrition? So nutrition is a method of obtaining nutrients from the environment. So it's a process of intake of foods, the 3 most important foods: carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Then you have what is called as the tiny nutrients, which are the minerals, the vitamins, and most important is water. So any organism requires this nutrition. So nutrition is further divided into 2 types, and these are mainly the autotrophic nutrition and the heterotrophic nutrition. Now autotrophic is a simple kind of nutrition, and this is where an organism can make its own food from inorganic substances. So what are these inorganic substances? Like carbon dioxide, water. So you just give them carbon dioxide, water, and with the help of some certain things which is present inside it called as chlorophyll, it can make its own glucose from which it gets the energy to grow. So these are called as the autotrophs, and the most common example which you all know are the plants and certain kind of bacteria as well. Now you have another kind of nutrition, which is the heterotrophic kind of nutrition, and this nutrition is what we all have. That means human beings as well as most of the other animals like your dogs, cats, etc. So what are these nutrition? Can I make my food from water? Can I make it from carbon dioxide? No, I can't. So what do I have to do? I have to take in food from outside, which is usually some kind of a complex food, and then break it down through my digestive system and then convert it into energy and utilize it. So this is called as a heterotrophic kind of nutrition. Now, in the heterotrophic kind of nutrition, you still have 3 different types of nutrition. So what are these 3 different types of nutrition? So one is a saprophytic nutrition. So what do I mean by saprophytic? So we'll look at this later on into the next slide. The most common example of this are the mushrooms. Then you have a parasitic type of nutrition, and the third is what I just described, the Holozoic nutrition. So heterotrophic, Holozoic is our type of nutrition. So what is saprophytic? So you see the mushrooms here, where do they grow? In dead and decaying matter. But it is in this that they get their nutritive support from. This is also bread, which is showing you a mold which is growing from here. So this is the type of saprophytic nutrition, and this is the example that you have to give if you have a question about what is the type of saprophytic nutrition. So the next is a parasitic nutrition. So what happens exactly over here is that the organism cannot make its own food. It has to take the food from another organism, but it's not going to kill the organism when it's doing that. And an example of this is when a baby is growing inside the stomach, it takes all the nutrients from the mother. So the baby is considered to be a kind of a parasite because it cannot create its own nutrition. Now coming to the most important type, you have the Holozoic nutrition, and in this nutrition the organism will take in complex food, which is the food that we eat, break it down into smaller types of food which can be utilized by the body, and that will be converted into energy. So before we go on to nutrition in plants, which is very important for us to survive, let me do a quick summarization of all the different types of nutrition. So what is nutrition? Nutrients which is required for us to perform all the basic life processes. So 2 types, autotrophic, heterotrophic. Heterotrophic further divided into 3 more types, which is saprophytic, parasitic and Holozoic. So now coming to nutrition in plants, which is very important because without plants will not survive. So how does plant synthesize its own food? It synthesizes it from energy, sunlight, and from carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere. And also it takes water from the soil, and it converts this entire thing into food, and in the process releases oxygen, which is very important for us. So this process by which the plants can make its own food, that is glucose, from carbon dioxide as well as from sunlight, with the presence of water, it converts it into glucose with the help of chlorophyll, which is present in the leaves, and these are the chloroplasts. This entire thing is called as photosynthesis. This is a very, very important slide for you to remember. So I am going to say this again. So the process by which green plants make their own food in the presence of carbon dioxide, sunlight, water, converts it into glucose, releases oxygen into the air, is called as photosynthesis. Okay students, remember this. So this is the chemical equation to that. So you have carbon dioxide here, you have water here, in the presence of sun's energy and in the presence of these beautiful cells containing chlorophyll, it gets converted into glucose or sugars, and it releases oxygen into the air.
And water.
Now this process of photosynthesis, which takes place in the green leaves, is dependent on 2 principal reactions. So what are these? You have a light reaction and you have a dark reaction. Now the light reaction is dependent on light, and this brings about the photolysis of water. Lysis means breakdown. So water here in the presence of light is broken up into hydrogen and oxygen is released. So is light reaction the only thing? No, you have a dark reaction, and as the name says, it is not dependent on sunlight. And what exactly happens here is this carbon dioxide is converted by a metabolic pathway into the food for the plant, which is carbohydrate, and this entire thing is called as Calvin's cycle. So the events which are occurring during photosynthesis, let me do a quick recap for you again.
Sorry.
Okay, so a quick recap again of what are the events which takes place during photosynthesis. So here you see the absorption of light energy, and this takes place through the chlorophylls which is present on the leaf, and it breaks down water into hydrogen and oxygen. This entire thing is called as a light reaction. It's dependent on light, and it is also called as photolysis because the light will break down the water into hydrogen and oxygen. And then you have carbon dioxide which is broken down into carbohydrates. So this is called by a metabolic pathway, and this entire thing is a dark reaction independent of light. Okay, so these are the events which takes place. So look at this beautiful picture. So this is how a chloroplast looks, and it is in the form of a lens. So this is what contains the chlorophyll. Okay, so the site of photosynthesis in the plants are the chloroplast, which you just saw, and that is the main site, and it occurs in the mesophyll cell of the leaf. So this is where you see this lens-shaped cell here. So since the chloroplast is very important, so this is another slide again to emphasize it, and it is a chlorophyll containing organelle which is also called as a plastid, and the chloroplast is present in that. It contains a green pigment and it is present in most of the plants and algae, and it is a lens-shaped cells bounded by a double membrane. So another question which can frequently come for you children is the raw materials which are required for photosynthesis. Remember the light reaction and the dark reaction. So in the light reaction you required sunlight and water in the presence of chlorophyll. So, and in the dark reaction you had carbon dioxide which is broken down to carbohydrates. So let's just list that out. What are the raw materials required for photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll and light. So these four things, don't forget. So a little bit about these raw materials. Where do you find carbon dioxide? In the atmosphere. What about water? The plants will take it from the soil. It takes it up through the xylem tissues where it reaches the leaf, and from where photosynthesis will take place. What about the chlorophyll? The chlorophyll is a green pigment which acts as a catalyst, and also these are photoreceptor molecules which helps in the entire process of photosynthesis. Now what about light? If sunlight falls, is that enough? Not actually, because if there is green light, the process of photosynthesis is actually at its minimum, and if you have blue and red light, the process of photosynthesis actually is at the maximum. So you have this entire process again. So quick recap, you have sunlight falling upon the leaves, and you have water here which is going up from the soil, absorbed to the xylem tissues, reaching up to the leaves, and in the presence of chlorophyll which is present in the chloroplast, you have the breakdown of the water into hydrogen and oxygen called as a light reaction, and then you have carbon dioxide being absorbed into the plant, and that undergoes a metabolic pathway where it forms through a dark reaction. It's broken up into glucose which is the food for the plant, and it also releases oxygen. So now I was telling you that the water is absorbed as well as the carbon dioxide is absorbed by the plant. How does this process actually takes place? So this takes place through tiny pores which are present on the epidermal surface of the leaf of the plant, and these pores are called as the stomata. So what happens is when the plant absorbs the water, you have this opening here, and on either side you have two kidney shaped cells which are called as the guard cells. So how exactly does this stomata work? So when the plant absorbs the water, these two guard cells will swell up, increase in size, and they open up this pore which is called as the stomata, through which the gaseous exchange takes place. That means the carbon dioxide is absorbed in and the oxygen comes out from it. And when the plant is not absorbing the water, probably during the night when there is no sunlight, that time the guard cells will shrink in size and this opening will become closed. So that brings us to the end of nutrition in plants, which is, remember, what type of nutrition? Autotrophic nutrition.